So there is a few changes into the budget. I think your previous sheets, you showed $1,463,373 with the increase, 5-cent increase, $45,540. That number, as you've got in front of you, is $1,508,913. We, after looking more at our sales tax, we've added $5,000 to that for that new number of $1,130,000. On the business tax, and this is revenues, page 1, by the way, we think that we guessed that proposed number just a little low on the business tax, and so we've added 35,000 to come up with $110,000. So your total revenues number will be $3,898,813. On the I wanted to talk just a little bit about the building construction on page 2. I have pulled that $150,000 out of renovation to go to paving, and to go over what, looking at the capital outlay note, it's going to be about a $200,000 payment to pave the remainder of the streets in Livingston. So what I've done here, and I've talked to Chief Dowell, and I've also talked to Chief Etheridge, we're going to make it work with what we've got. So I've got a meeting. I've already had a preliminary meeting with Sheriff John Garrett and with Overton County Executive Ben Danner in holding our court, city court, either at the courthouse or the Justice Center. And I think that will be a minimum fee, if any. Now that's a Band-Aid, because I really think in the next 12 months we are going to be talking about possibly a new public safety building. I think that we've outgrew our current public safety building. That building is approximately 25 years old. There's some that say there could possibly be some structural problems there. According to Chief Dowell, we need showers for our firemen. We will have sleeping quarters, but they're not private. They're kind of an open room is what we're doing right now. According to the chief, we don't have a true interrogation room at the police department that we really need. And so I think that over the next 12 months, we just need to take a look at that and do some kind of study to see where we at. So, so the $150,000 for renovation is gone, and that it goes for paving. Okay. I have added
Curtis, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Does it still need to be 150
Yes.
in insurance and bonding?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So, just to clarify.
Yes.
You're saying take the 150 that was in here, apply that to the paving, but the capital outlay is gonna be 200 grand a
That's,
year,
mm,
and then they will get us the other.
that's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Let's clarify your clarification.
Pardon?
The 150 for building construction was not originally
Well,
included in
right.
the budget.
Yeah. So what it was, Joel?
Not for
Right. Right. And so I've just switched that, and that's gonna go to the paving.
How many years is that note? That capital outlay?
Well, the one for 200,000 is 7 years.
Okay.
If we extended that to 10, of course, that brings it down.
I'm just trying to think future long run, you know, should we expect a 10-year life expectancy on our street repaving? And if so, you know, how do we,
What is the expected
10 years. That's all they're gonna give you a loan value is 10 years on paving.
on the streets?
how many years should we be able to get out of a topping on a street like that? I should know that.
Well, I can't answer that question. I can just tell you that they're not gonna loan, 10 years is gonna be as long as you go. But, so city streets is, I'm just guessing now, I'm not a construction, you're more of a construction man than I am. The problem that we have with our city streets, and I'm gonna have that conversation with you in just a minute, is that we have utilities right in the middle of the street. So if we have water leaks, sewer leaks, gas leaks, that's what virtually tears our streets up. And then, of course, once you dig, you patch it, they're never correct. We've got about 10 streets right now that I've got Jerry Dale and Greg Davenport we'll be looking at Monday that we think possibly there's been some sewer trunk lines that have collapsed. And
So we want to defer then on resurfacing until we get through this leak detection program and try to make the repairs, you know?
yeah, so what I was thinking, Kelly, is that instead of setting out a bid for in July, we'd wait to the spring of '22. By then, we should know exactly where we are, and we should have if there has been some sewer collapse in our streets, we will have that repaired. Yeah, so now, after saying that, if that's the case, it may very well be a year and a half or 2 years before a payment is due if we borrow the money. And if we continue to go to the schedule of a nickel, as we've been advised to do by our finance officer and by MTAS, then that's going to create some more positive revenues in the black than in the red. So that's where we are. So,
I think it's smart to wait till spring anyway.
Right.
Then you get through one more winter cycle also.
right.
And decide then whether we're going to look at 7 or 10.
Yes, that's correct. That's right. But I went ahead and put the money in there. All right. So on page 3, I went and after having a very long discussion today with Chief Etheridge and Captain Ray Smith, I had them to do a survey because we continue to lose some of our policemen, and some of it due to pay, some of it due to maybe shorthanded, not being able to take as much time off, possibly, as they would like. So I put an additional $40,000 in that police department hourly wages. That would raise it to $765. Our patrolman, which Captain Smith and Chief Etheridge agree is the backbone of our department. There would be 10 road officers that would get a increase in pay at $15.50. And they're kind of across the board right now at anywhere from 13 to what, Greg?
13.50, and the 2 was in the middle level was 14.25.
So, but 10 of them would go up. So,
Out of curiosity, how does that new number compare to the places we're losing them to?
well, we got that survey.
We got a contacted the surrounding agencies. If we do this, we're kind of in the middle. Cookville, Allgood, Monterey seem to be our
Thank you.
immediate competition. This does not get us quite there, but it gets us closer.
And that's where we're losing the two, because
So far, yeah.
It's not all good or Cookville.
Allgood, yes. We know that Cookville's 41 and Monterey's 40. And well, it's kind of where we're.
I mean, there's a sign down on the lower end of town that's just not been put up that you go to work at Cartersville and you go to.
That's right. That's right.
Starting pay.
McDonald's 11.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
35 police officer on.
Right.
But they all do this one.
yeah, I agree.
It's not that way.
Right, and I think we sit down today and we'll be bringing, we'll be changing the pay scale next fiscal year to kind of reflect, to upgrade where we was at. By then, it'll be 4 years ago when we first did the pay scale.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah. So, that number, like I said, it'd be $765,000 for the hourly wages. That'd take your number total under the Public Safety Police Department column to $1,040,000.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Would it be worth looking at and entertain the possibility of, because of the turnover and the manpower shortage and the limited, because of the manpower shortage, because you're working 20, you know, we're having to staff that department.
For the record, push your button, Kelly.
24/7, 365. Would it be worth looking at making a decision on a one-time basis, because we're short right now, to pay that $28,000 that we owe all the officers over there for their comp time versus trying to give them time off, because we don't have the staff to give them the time off? I think according to that report, it's $28,000 worth of accumulated comp time at the police department. But my understanding is they can't really take that time off because there's not enough staff to cover the shifts. Should we think about just paying that one time at the police department and until we can get our staff built back up, and then make a one-time, I hate for those employees not to be able to take their comp time because of a shortage of staff.
Right.
So I don't know if this is
Well,
an inappropriate time to bring that up.
Well, I think we can take a look at it, Kelly, without a doubt. And I can bring you something to talk about. Well, we meet next Tuesday, so let me see, and I'll report back. I mean, I'm not against it. I understand what you're saying. It's
I know we save money in the salaries this year.
right. So.
those employees turns in their resignation tomorrow, do they get paid for that comp time?
Oh, yeah.
Or just lose it?
Yes, no, they get paid. Yeah,
If they leave?
if they leave. If there's a break in service.
It is an incentive to leave if you're on the edge, you know, on the fence about it.
Well, it could be.
Because if you leave, you get paid.
Right.
Out of that 28,000, was the most of that accrued this fiscal year? Because I know that can carry over year to year. Or is that a combination of several years?
It can be a combination. I went back and looked. On average, what we give them off versus what we bring in, it's about 2,000 total hours department-wide every year. You don't keep gaining that 2,000 every time because we cut, take off to keep it as low as we can. I understand
And-
what you're saying.
And you know, and we got to be very careful about being discriminative with a certain department. But I also think that it may be time to take a separate look at public safety, whether it be police and fire, because of the schedule, and also, as the chief is saying, and I know the chief and Ray is not wanting to take any benefits away from their staff. I get it. But also, they pull out their hair when they're off every red letter holiday and things of that nature.
Well,
Is that,
I think that's
is that fair?
I think that is a component beyond the paycheck that we sometimes fail to recognize.
Right.
Quality of life is almost as important as what you bring home.
That's
And,
right.
You know, if I'm asked to work a number of shifts to cover, you know, openings that we don't have staff to cover, at the end of the day, I want to spend some time with my family. And if that's hard to do because we don't have staff, I can't take my comp time, we got to figure out a way to make certain that these people are taken care of.
Right, and I'll agree, Kelly, and so we had this meeting today, and I think the magic number is 3 more officers. I think that's the magic number that we spoke about today. Now, I don't have 3 more additional officers in this budget, but I told them that next year that we will take a serious look at. But they was very, very happy with stopping the bleeding with 1550 that may turn some people back around to come back or possibly stay. Is that correct?
That's our hope. We can't tell you that somebody's not going to leave tomorrow. We're trying to figure out what we can do.
And there is a nationwide shortage of policemen. I know that our local sheriff's office is down, 5? All the departments that I've talked to they're just down. It's just down. So that's all the changes that I had. But I just wanted to share that. And like I said, on the paving, we'll take a stronger look at that. Mr. Davenport, J.R. Wofford and Company will be here Tuesday. We're definitely got to talk about these sewer lines that are collapsing in our streets, because I certainly wouldn't want to pave and have to turn around and rip it right up. So there's your budget. Yes. Okay, let me, what page is that? Page 4 for the total expenses. If you go down to the very bottom, it is it's not the very bottom, but if you go to the total public service total expenditures, that's halfway down the page, right under solid waste column, is $3,905,094. That is the new number.
Okay, so just for the record, the nickel is to dedicate our street conservation program.
Absolutely.
Plus the 500, plus the 200, the 150.
That's right.
Plus in the budget for the building program.
That's right.
I think it's important that public.
Absolutely.
The nickel increase is equate to specific. or something.
That's right. And I just, I don't want to browbeat you here, but we really need to take a serious look at our public safety building in the next 12 months. We've just outgrew it, and our departments have grew, like I said, and we can't. We no longer have a courtroom inside our public safety building. We've moved that. I think the county is going to be gracious enough for a year. I don't know anything after that, but I just think it's something that we need to take a look at and study. Is there any questions?
And I think to further defend that, Mayor, this past year, we made the decision to add how many additional firefighters?
Well, it's going to be 4.
4?
Yeah.
But over the next several years,
That's right.
it's up to 10.
That's right.
So to have sleeping quarters,
That's right. Showers.
facilities for, a growing staff to be able to serve our community better.
That's right. It's what you call growing pains. It's expensive. Okay, there's your budget folks. And if there's no other questions, we need to pass the second reading on the budget.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Ken Dodson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Kelly Coleman. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dale,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed. I'll turn it over now to Joel for the budget amendments. You are more welcome to stay or be dismissed after
The budget amendments, you each have a pack. The goal is to make sure that all of your revenue has been recognized, how it compares to budget, and then making adjustments to increase the budget to reflect the additional revenue that came in compared to what was projected. And the expenses is more of where the concern would be, to make sure that anything spent prior to June 30 has been appropriated by you as a board. So the first page is general fund. The projected numbers are on the far left column. These are obviously unaudited. Phyllis and I just went line by line like we always do, and we're like to be conservative with revenue and conservative with expense also. So there's a lot of adjustments, a lot of amendments on increases to the main revenue, the tax revenue, business tax and such. It's incredible that the first four or the first five revenues were fairly well under budget. I know that's in part to the mayor's conservative nature, which matches mine and Phyllis, and yours, I believe, also, to show, just be conservative with how much revenue so you don't accidentally spend too much of it. So just look at a few highlights. The property tax was about $35,000 underneath what you expected a year ago. Sales tax, $164,500. That's a very strong number, but it appears very, very accurate. Budget liquor store tax, $85,000. That was not originally included on the original budget. Business tax came in quite a bit higher than I even expected with the COVID. The grants for the state, a year ago, just like this time, we don't know exactly how much grant revenue is out there that's going to be received that has been already issued or requested. So at that time, it was projected that you would get about $280,000, which is kind of is conservative, but also it only really included a little bit of the airport money and the annual courthouse square money. Ultimately, you got $696,000. Of course, you had expenditures to offset that additional revenue on different projects that you had. A few other highlights. We could go through every number, but police fines were projected to be $35,000. It's going to be more like $63,000. So in total, you had budgeted $3,557,280. It looks like it's going to be more in line with getting $4,260,000. Going to page 2, we start the expenses.
So our revenue was $864,000 over budget.
Correct. The largest part of it being sales tax and state grants, or state and federal
Yeah,
grants.
of course, COVID helped us. COVID, the 15 years that I've been here, there's two things that has raised our sales tax. One is gasoline prices over $3 a gallon, and the second one I just found out is COVID-19. But folks just chose to stay at home and shop, and one of the merchants just right off the square said every day was like Christmas. That the sales tax was rolling in, so.
Page 2, you get into the expenses. In the first two categories, there's nothing really particular worth noting. Some increases, decreases. You get to the general government, obviously, as we talked about before, the employee insurance has taken a strong increase. Again, it's not audited, it's simply projected. So we had to increase 100,000, which was budgeted to 150 to match what was expected. Ideally, we'll find out that's a different number, a smaller number, but at this point, it looks like that's going to be a good number. We got general maintenance that was 33,000, about the middle of that third category. We had to increase that 21,000. Downtown revitalization, that's a little bit different this year. That's a new account, and what's being included in that account is Square Project, and then the park, which was in the municipal park category, that's been moved over. And so the budget that was online, it's on Square Project, 25,000, that's part of the increase of 87,000 in the line above it. So that's just recharacterizing that particular budget. City garage equipment, the last line on that, on page 2, you had projected spending 27.5. That did not happen, so the 25,000 has been reduced. We talked about, or the mayor talked about the increase to the police department. Oh, that's actually for next year. This year, you budgeted 699,000, and you only spent 658,000. There's a $40,000 decrease to that budget just to bring it down. We talked about in the first meeting this month, what accounted for that reduction.
That's where I think we ought to pay that $28,000. Is it still there? I mean, do we have 28,000 still available in the police department salaries that could be spent between now and the end of June? And, because it would have to be spent before the end of June
Right.
to hit this.
The hit, yeah, because it's not,
Right.
unless you're going to propose it in the next fiscal year, and I don't think that's what you want to do.
I'm saying.
We're gonna do that this amendment.
It would have to be done, we would just block off that number.
The other thing with that, we'd have to make sure they all want their comp time paid. Some of them may want to keep it for time ahead.
Does that have to first be on the agenda
Yeah.
before you can address it? So it would be a next year thing.
So I just want to, and I'm not trying to throw a curveball here, but I just want, of course, we have more departments than police, and every department has comp time. And I'm just saying that they're going to be coming to me, and they'd like to have their comp time too. I just want to make sure that that's what you will hear and that's what I will hear. Whatever the board wants to do is up to the board. We have, I think we sent out a list to everyone about compensatory time and what each department had. So I just think I had to say that.
I think it's something we should consider and think about. I'm not suggesting we do that tonight, but because I don't know.
We've got to do it in the next day, right?
Well, the problem is, you could carry it. Could you not?
It doesn't really work that way. It carries over in beginning fund balance, so you can appropriate from the beginning balance next week.
But those, could you not do it?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a mechanism from a budget standpoint to spend it next year out of this year's budget?
It's technically, yes. It'd be the beginning fund balance that you're pulling
I think
from.
we have to make the decision as a council, are we ready to say, if you work in a department that requires 24/7, 365 shifts, this is the comp time policy. I mean, you do it, you know, you have a policy for a department that could be different from another department, and that's
Yeah.
part of it.
So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on comp time, but comp time, what we're talking about, the numbers. Comp time is something that I stress about to all of my department heads every Monday morning. And it takes that, let me back up, it's not every Monday morning. They turn their comp time forms into me with their full number on monthly. And so we have a supervisors meeting, and as I scan down the comp time, which is down a lot in compared to recent years. I think I've got everybody under 100 or under. Now, in public safety, which is fire and police, they may be up. I think the fire department's numbers may be up just a little bit because the rule from the Department of Labor says that, and I don't have my notes in front of me, and I always get in trouble when I try to say a number, but I think one is 380, one is 480, or maybe it's 280, 380. But anyway, there's a threshold that if public safety employees go over, then you have to pay that compensatory time out, no questions asked, okay? So in the past, we've had folks in Public Works that has got that number, and then we've had one in Public Safety too, but due to some hard work and me begging and pleading to get that comp time down, we've got it down now. So, you know, and I just want to talk just a little bit about the comp time versus the overtime pay. I'd like to do another little study on that to see how many cities actually pay overtime versus comp time. I'm a little nervous about it. It's something that we haven't done, and even though we got really, really good employees, you could have someone that rides the clock that could get our budgeting numbers out of whack here, okay? If we don't, you know, with proper policy, but I would just like to see, I'm not for sure how many actually pay overtime pay to their public safety employees. I do feel like that the ones that work on holidays maybe should get, you know, some kind of, I don't want to say separate check, but should get paid time and a half for those, paid time and a half for those days that they're working Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, things of that nature. And that would probably help with them building up so much time, and while others are off. That's just an idea, but I'm really, really nervous about opening up overtime pay for public works employees and or public safety employees. I just wanted to note that.
Looking at some of the more lines that stand out, fire department, the actual expenditure is going to be in the neighborhood of $270,628. You'd budgeted $218,000, so we had to increase that by $53,000. Each line item is basically the same. You're just looking at what was actually incurred or projected to be actually incurred compared to what was budgeted, and just rectifying to the extent possible. Public service, there was Central Park project, $40,000 was budgeted. We moved that, or the mayor has moved that to the other category, downtown revitalization. So that budget was not needed, nor were there expenses on that line item. So it's just a cosmetic detail. Maintenance, you'd budget 25, more like 49,000, so it also had to be included or adjusted. Architects and engineers, miscellaneous under airport. The projected number is 39,381 for miscellaneous. His budgeted was 20. Instead of increasing that only by 19,381, I put down 50,000 just in case, because we don't know exactly the progress on some of those projects, whether or not they were going to be billable by June 30 or July 6, which really means June 30 by the time it's signed off on. So that's just a little bit of a protection. Under paving, only 100,000 was originally budgeted, 858,000 was incurred, so we had to increase that by 758,000. Going on down, there was nothing to adjust. There were no note proceeds, capital outlay, no proceeds budgeted because of the paving. The mayor had to borrow $1 million, so we had to increase the budget by $1 million. The next one is street aid fund. There's really nothing that stands out except where we are bringing in, recognizing that street aid is receiving $100,000 for paving, and the let's see, you projected as $100,000 cost. 100,000 was budgeted. Okay, so the 100,000 operating transfer in is to reduce. You see how the excess of expenditures over revenue is 105,000. So we had to bring 100,000 in to bring that down to just a shortfall of 5,300. Drug fund, page 6. Sale of assets was projected to be 100,000, but it was only 14,400. And then other line items had to be adjusted. Nothing in the industrial development fund. It's a fairly inactive fund. General debt service, there are no budget amendments except for the 65,000. You budgeted 350,000 for state sales tax, and it, like local sales tax, increased quite a bit, so you got more than you projected. The water and sewer on page 9 has a number of items there. Water sales was projected to be $4,025,000, but it looks like it's only going to amount to $3,725,000.
How can we miss that? Because that's basically historical, isn't it, sales? I would think.
What was the question, Ken?
Yeah, under revenue for water sales, we're about 300,000 lower than our, what we're bringing in, what we budgeted. I mean, I'm just surprised by that, because I would think that would be pretty easy. That's all based on historical usage.
Well, you know, and leaks. You know, some of that, you know, I mean, I'm not telling you nothing that you know you haven't heard. You know, we're under the Water Advisory Board from the state of Tennessee because we've got 50% water loss. You know, losing 1 million gallons of water a day.
Then you've got, you could look at a dozen of these line items. Equipment was less than expected in the middle of the page. Depreciation, 840,000, it's projected more like 780,000. That's non-cash expenditure. As you peruse down the page, just let me know if you have any questions about any of it. The second page of water sewers, which is page 10. It was projected that you would have a change in net assets, which is the third line from the bottom of that page. Change in project in net assets was 77,800. You had budgeted 134,000, so we reduced it. The amended budget shows as if you're going to have a loss. That's a lot is where we've built in more appropriations than we think is necessary. It doesn't mean that anything is going to be additionally spent. We're just covering our bases that we want every dollar authorized by the board. But it doesn't mean that once you approve this budget, anything else is going to be spent that's not already in the works. It's just a protection. We don't want to get a finding from Tennessee is for not having appropriated each line item. Natural gas is very similar to the other funds. Natural gas purchases were projected to be 1.1 million. It was actually 1.90.
Wait a minute. Natural gas?
Mm-hmm.
I thought gas sales was projected at 2.2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about the expense line item. That's just the first thing that caught my eye.
So, okay.
Gas sales were projected to be 2.25, but it's more like going to be about 2,186,000. So we had to decrease the budget by 39,000.
That makes sense. Okay. 279,000, right?
Well, that's only at the decrease side. So total projected is 2.1 million. Budgeted is 2.185. Again, that's just a protective, just to make sure nothing comes in that should have been appropriated. But the projected number is 2.134. That's going to be the most, the best look at what you to expect.
And I think that 39,000 decrease is probably when some of our factories now shut down due to COVID-19, because we just shut down for a little while, and that was your decrease. I think that's what I would blame it on COVID, I guess.
So are there any questions on the budget amendments?
Okay. If there's not any questions on the budget amendments, I'll take a motion to accept the budget amendments as Mr. Joel Parks has presented them to us.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Chris Speck,
Second.
a second by Alderman Rex Dale. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Phyllis.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Dale,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion pass. No other business. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made, Vice Mayor Ken Dotson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Kelly Coleman. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. We're adjourned. Thank you.